Hello, all. Our life has changed a lot over a period of time. And when I say time, I'm talking about the period much, much longer. I'm talking about the period when human beings came into existence. Have you ever wondered how it feels to live during the era of our ancestors? I'm talking about the Common Era, which is a combination of AD and BC. How do we know where we come from? I'm talking about the roots. From the stories from our grandparents or stories told by their grandparents passed on to us. What about the period before that? We can know from the scriptures, yes, to a certain extent. We can know from the inscriptions in temples, yes, to a certain extent. But what about the period before the temple was constructed? What about the period before these scriptures came into existence? That is where our literature comes in place, especially Sangam literature. We are talking about literature which came during the Common Era, a combination of AD and BC. And the work that we are going to deal with today belongs to the 2nd century of the Common Era. This work is called Porunaraatrupadai. It talks about the earliest known king of the Chola dynasty. Where do you think we get our traits from? Traits as in characteristics. Don't you think we possess most of our characteristics from our ancestors? Well, all our traits are based on the behavior of our ancestors, and their behaviors were recorded in literature, and that is why there is a need to preserve literature today. When I say literature, I'm talking about Sangam literature, which gives us a rich, detailed account of how our ancestors lived, what all they had, and how we should follow a lot of things that they used to follow back then. Coming back to the work, today we are going to deal with translation of Porunaraatrupadai. Purunar refers to bards. Bards are artists who performed on the streets. They used to compose poems in simple language that was understandable for common people. And they even performed in front of the kings. And they used to volunteer to appear in the battlefront alongside of the king who went there. The army often carried these bards with them so that they can double as historians. Now we know how history was recorded, not in the books, not in temple inscriptions, but in the form of ballads or long poems. These poems gave a detailed picture of what happened in the battle, who fought very well, who the winner was, why the other side faced defeat. They also had another purpose, and for that particular purpose, these bards were never killed. They were sent back to their hometown. They were carriers of messages. They carried messages to the families of the deceased to tell how valiantly they fought. They used to give an account, a detailed account of the battle, and thus the same were recorded in the form of poems. Now we know our history is completely based on literature. With that, we are going to go into the introduction of the poem. Now, the term Porunaraatrupadai has a very deep meaning. Like I said, Porunar refers to a bard who records events based on battles or greatness of a particular king in the form of poem and presents the same to a wide audience, and most often in the streets. Aruppadai refers to guide, to patronage. These poets did not make a living doing some other profession. This was their only profession, writing and singing, performing in front of the crowd. And they benefited when another group directed them to a king or a beneficiary who was in a position to give them some kind of monetary benefits. So, Porunaraatrupadai means a guide to bards. Bards who were present in battlefronts. Porunaraatrupadai is the second of the anthology named Patthuppaatu. If you will remember, Pattu means 10 and Paatu means song. The first of Patthuppaatu is Porunaraatrupadai. The second one is Porunaraatrupadai. This poem has got 248 lines and it's actually simpler compared to many other poems available from the Sangam era. But the language is so rich that one makes us wonder how a poet belonging to that period could write such rich language-filled poem. Porunaraatrupadai is written by a poet called Mudathama Kanniyar. From the name, we can understand that Kanniyar might refer to a lady. We have no records of the poet, so we are not very sure of the gender of the poet. While some historians and scholars argue that this should definitely be a female poet, some feel that the term Kanniyar actually refers to the one who wears garland. So we are not very sure of the gender, and I don't see why we should know the gender. The songster's face is not important, the song is more important, and the song is perfect in every other way. So let us get into the poem and enjoy the same. Porunaraatrupadai. Ara ayaner aganthalai perur சாறு களிவழினாள் சோறு நசை உறாது வேறு புலம் முன்னிய விறகு அறிபொருனா. As you head to the ever-prosperous vast city, past the non-festive food offered, post those grand festivity with the desire to reach lands anew, O wise bard. We have to understand the setting of the poem before we actually get into the poem. We have a group of artists who have already met King Karikaalan. They are bestowed with a lot of gifts. They are clad in rich silk. They are traveling on a very grandly decorated chariot. The chariot is fastened to 4 beautiful looking horses, and they all are bejeweled very rich fashion. And these people happen to meet another set of bards. These bards are just opposite to what they look like. They look very impoverished. They have torn clothes, they have dirtied look, they look very tired and fatigued. Now, they used to be a practice long back during the time when the poem was actually written. The war bards, when they had no battles going on, used to just perform the previous battles recorded in front of an audience. Whenever there was a festival going on in some town, these bards would go and perform. And in turn, the people in the village or the town would feed them with rich food, would give them gifts, whatever they were capable of giving. Otherwise, the bards used to suffer a lot with no support absolutely whatsoever. So we can understand why this particular set of bards are very impoverished, whereas the other set is very rich looking. So the two troupes meet at one point. The point of meeting happens to be the mid of a forest. The forest has a small shrine and it holds a goddess, the goddess of war. So I believe the setting is actually an old battlefront. Battlefronts used to have small shrines so that the kings could pray before they started their battles. And this shrine holds a goddess of war or Kottravai. And these impoverished bards go to goddess Kottravai and let their heart out to pray, asking her to get rid of the poverty that has struck them. And just like an answer to their prayers, these bards who have already received riches from Karikaalan meet them. When they meet, this bard, the chief bard of the troupe that has already met the king, he immediately understands what exactly the situation is. And he addresses the chief of the other side directly. He calls him, "Oh, wise bard." He calls him a very wise person because he should understand the suffering of his troupe and take him to the right person. These people were full of pride. They would never accept anything in alms. They were not beggars. They would perform and in turn would get gifts. So he says that you hold your pride very highly. So it is time for you to lead your troupe to a place where your talents would be recognized and rewarded. What happens later? Is he going to take our advice? We shall look into it in the next part. Thank you.